We're back, and I'm always delighted to be able to say that one of the smartest guys I know is in the house virtually. A man who we consult with on a whole host of issues, all manner of issues, is what I'm trying to say, because his personal expertise over decades in political life and public policy more generally gives him standing to comment on just about everything that we work on here at Securing America. His name is George Rasley. He is, no kidding, a genius, a certified member of Mensa, as well as an extremely accomplished political practitioner with some 300 campaigns to his credit at all levels of our government. And I always learn from him, and I'm delighted to help the rest of you do so now. And George, welcome back to Securing America. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you, Frank. I'm sure could be certified someplace by someone, but
I'm doing the certification for the moment
okay.
with the help of Mensa. Here's the question that I want to start with. I
Um,
talked a little bit about it with one of our previous guests, Chuck DeVore,
Great
retired
guy.
military officer. You are a retired civilian government employee. And our audience has been hearing about this in kind of the abstract for some time, that we've got this incredible problem that our financial sector, personified by one of the most important figures in it, a fellow by the name of Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock,
Mhm.
is determined to put investment savings in general of the American investor community, and now specifically the investment and retirement savings of people like yourself, George, a member, a participant of the so called thrift
Mm.
savings plan, into companies owned and controlled by our mortal enemy, the Chinese Communist Party. As a man with skin in the game, as they say, what do you make of
Yeah.
this? And what should the rest of us be thinking, and more to the point, doing to try to prevent it from coming about, if you agree?
Well, we went through this same argument a year or two ago,
Oh,
and
too.
Trump managed to do the right thing and shut it down when they were talking about investing military pensions
Right.
in Red China. Um, you know,
Military and civilian,
yeah.
to be honest. I mean, it was the same question. It was just different techniques for doing it.
And
Go ahead.
so, of course, as someone who still has some dough in the TSP from my government service, I'm adamantly opposed to this. I think everyone should be adamantly opposed to this. I mean, the equivalent of giving our mortal enemy, as you refer to them, Red China, um, the money to buy the weapons and to engage in the intelligence operations to defeat us.
Yeah.
And we might as well just send a boatload of Abrams tanks over to them, as allow them to uh, invest, or rather force former and current government employees to invest in Red China. And
Yeah.
all of these,
Well, the defenders of this idea, and the way they're doing it now, is they're opening what they call a mutual fund window, in which they will have on offer 5,000 mutual funds, and people like you can pick one or more to invest up to 25% of your savings with the thrift savings plan in them. So they'll describe it as a voluntary thing. The problem is, George, that they have made it clear, the people who run this operation, that they're not going to tell you which of these mutual funds have
yeah,
Chinese companies in portfolio. So, it's Russian roulette, I guess, or worse, you will wind up with lots of them in your own personal portfolio that have these Chinese companies. Worse than Abrams tanks, I would argue we're sending them thermonuclear devices, because
yeah.
this is funding not just, as you say, military weapons acquisitions or even intelligence operations. It's everything that the Chinese are up to globally, from the Belt and Road Initiative to their economic warfare against us to their subversion and elite capture, and on and on, thanks in part to the American
Yeah.
investors' underwriting. So I appreciate so much your clarity on this, George, and think it's really vital that, as you say, not only people who are participants in the program, but all of us get up and righteously indignant about this and shut it down. George, let me turn to another thing quickly before we have to take a short break. There is an effort being made to subvert our sovereignty with the World Health Organization. Um, you know a lot about these international organizations and who's largely calling the
Mhm.
shots in them, namely, again, the Chinese
Yeah,
Communist
and
Party.
anymore it's
Is it advisable to have a guy like Dr. Tedros of the World Health Organization telling us what's a public health emergency and what we'll do about it?
absolutely not. I mean, we saw how this guy operated at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, where he couldn't even use the word China in relationship to the origins and the ongoing, uh, you know, spread of it. He's where he is because of Red China's votes.
Exactly.
They pull his strings. And so, to the extent that this guy can be, in essence, mobilized as a red Chinese asset against us,
Mhm.
they're going to use him as they use every other lever of power that they can get their
Exactly.
hands on.
And George, one of the things that, as you know, they've done actually quite successfully, in
Mhm.
part with his help, but part, to be fair, that of Anthony Fauci and others in our own government,
Other
who,
red Chinese
oh,
assets in
oh,
their
by
government.
the way, that's right, we're funding gain of function research in China that brought us, I believe, this disease. But you have this China model that the Chinese have had on display of late in Shanghai, notably, and
Mhm.
other places. The lockdowns, the mandates, the forced separation, the forced vaccinations, the vaccine passports, the whole social credit
Yeah.
system. And we're going to have to take a quick pause. I will pick this up on the other side of a short break. But to the extent that Dr. Tedros has been an instrument of the Chinese Communist Party in helping foist this so called model, we call it a digital gulag,
Mhm.
on the rest of us, it is outrageous. And I just want to talk with you a little bit about the implications if we allow this to happen again, notably, perhaps, for our election integrity, another matter on which you're deeply knowledgeable. We'll talk about all of that and more with George Rasley on the other side of this very short break. Stay tuned.